Next on Currents News, hatred of Jews and police is behind the deadly attack in Jersey City. The new details revealed by investigators.
Thousands of Catholics packed the Co-Cathedral of Saint Joseph to honor Our Lady of Guadalupe. I'm Tim HARFMANN, and take a look at this. Even the choir loft is standing room only. I'll have more of the sights and sounds coming up.
Also, the all-day-long heated debate on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers clashing over the two articles of impeachment against the president. And the veteran who pours his heart and soul into making Christmas merry for children. The news starts right now. An outpouring of love and devotion in the Brooklyn Diocese for Our Lady of Guadalupe. Good evening, I'm Lydia Serrani. Today is when Catholics worldwide remember her apparitions to Juan Diego nearly 500 years ago. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio celebrated the great occasion with Mass and a torch-lit pilgrimage. Currents News' Tim HARFMANN reports from Prospect Heights in Brooklyn.
A relay of pilgrims through the streets of Brooklyn and Queens, honoring Our Lady of Guadalupe as they travel the road to Christ.
It's like setting your eyes on the prize.
Catholics in stride to their parishes, torches lighting the way in the frigid temperatures.
Well, it symbolizes the light of Christ, you know, and we bring the light of Christ to the world. The world, sometimes there's darkness, sometimes there's hatred without the love that Christ gives us.
Before the pilgrimage, music and dancing on this feast day. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio celebrates Mass for nearly 2,000 Catholics at the Co-Cathedral of Saint Joseph. They have a great devotion to Our Lady of Guadalupe.
She's the protector of all. She's the mother for everyone. If you don't have a mother, she is your mother. So for me, it means everything.
The thousands packing the pews would agree. This tradition dates back centuries when St. Juan Diego encountered Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico in the 1500s. During the apparitions, the Blessed Mother told him to go to the mountaintop, where roses were in full bloom during winter, a symbol of deep faith.
We have to be rooted in the faith, and we need to be in the truth. And the truth is Jesus Christ.
Our Lady of Guadalupe led to the conversion of Mexico from paganism to Christianity. According to the Brooklyn Diocese, there are over 175,000 Mexican Catholics living in Brooklyn and Queens. After Mass, Bishop DiMarzio lit 39 torches, each one for a parish participating in the annual celebration. Then the group spend hours walking or jogging, making the journey back to their parishes, where they'll have another Mass and celebration in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. In Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, Tim HARFMANN, Currents News.
And stay with us. More coverage of Our Lady of Guadalupe is coming up. In Mexico City, as many as 10 million pilgrims are expected to arrive for the feast day. The basilica dedicated to her is located in Mexico City. And here in the United States, a Chicago suburb is home to a Guadalupe shrine that is a place of worship for hundreds of thousands of people. Both stories are still ahead in this newscast. A disturbing story in Manhattan is still developing tonight. New York police detectives are hunting for the killers of Barnard College freshman Tessa Majors. The 18-year-old student was attacked by muggers in Morningside Park, not far from the college's Manhattan campus, after nightfall on Wednesday. She was repeatedly stabbed and later pronounced dead at the hospital. This morning, Mayor Bill de Blasio and Police Commissioner Dermot Shea reacted to the killing.
It's unbelievable to me that that could happen here next to one of our great college campuses. It's an unacceptable reality.
We will do everything that we can to keep the students safe. You will see increased deployment in and around Morningside Park as well as Columbia University.
At the time of this newscast, no one has been arrested in connection with the murder of Tessa Majors. Her parents are traveling from their home in Charlottesville, Virginia, to bury their daughter. Well, the cops need help tracking down the killers of this young woman. They're asking anyone with any information to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. Murders are up in New York City by 8% over last year. Through December 1st, there have been 298 killings. That compares with 275 murders in 2018. The mayor calls this increase, quote, simply not acceptable. The Jersey City shootout is now being called a deadly rampage of hate and terror. For the latest on the investigation, Currents News' Emily Druby reports from Jersey City.
Lydia, the FBI announcing today they are investigating this as a domestic terror attack with a hate crime bias slant towards Jewish people and police officers.
While we know a little bit more than yesterday,
during a press briefing Thursday, officials releasing new details about the two suspects, David Anderson and Francine Graham. They're seen here leaving their U-Haul. Both were armed when they entered the kosher supermarket. Officials also say after killing 3 inside and injuring 1, they appear to be directly targeting law enforcement. Officials also confirming both suspects had at one point expressed interest in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, a designated hate group with no connection to mainstream Judaism. However, they still believe the suspects acted on their own. Officials are staying tight-lipped on what was in the letter found in their U-Haul, but claim there was no manifesto. Officials refusing to comment on if the suspects had additional targets, but they did say this.
they had a tremendous amount of firepower, that they had a pipe bomb in the van, and but for the actions of Chief Kelly and his officers, they could have done more.
Now attention has been turned towards keeping the Jewish communities here in New Jersey as well as in New York safe.
You will see an increased presence from the NYPD throughout the Jewish community.
Last night, members of the Jewish community in Jersey City gathered up the road at Temple Bethel to mourn the loss and to pray for the end of hate. Jersey City is known as a diverse and welcoming city. Their mayor, Stephen Fulop, shocked to see this kind of hate.
You know, it speaks to the fact that it can happen here, it can happen anywhere, and that's why we need to be extra conscious of it.
Just down the road, the street was packed as victim Moshe Deutsch's coffin was carried through the streets for his funeral. The 24-year-old lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. The shooting also claimed the life of Mindy Ferenz, a co-owner of the supermarket and a mother of 3 young children. Miguel Rodriguez, an Ecuadorian immigrant who worked at the store, and Jersey City veteran detective Joseph Seals, who was shot at a nearby cemetery before the supermarket shooting began. On Wednesday, his fellow officers paid tribute to the hero as they moved his body. He was also a father of 5. We're more than 48 hours out from this attack, but so many questions remain unanswered, especially what triggered the carnage. Officials say they're still combing through evidence, including social media accounts, trying to figure that out. In Jersey City, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Funeral plans are in place for Jersey City detective Joseph Seals. He was the first person killed on Tuesday. The married father of 5 was shot in the head when trying to question the suspects. His mass of Christian burial will be celebrated at St. Aidan's Catholic Church in Jersey City on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Detective Seals was only 39 years old. Meantime, a beloved parish in Bergen County, New Jersey, was destroyed by a fire. Police found Most Blessed Sacrament Church, which serves more than 2,000 families, engulfed in flames early yesterday morning. Authorities claim the only person in the building at the time was suspect James Mayers, who police arrested at the scene. Church officials say they are searching for temporary sites to hold the parish's services. President Trump is saying hate against the Jewish people can never be tolerated here in America. He spoke out at the White House last night.
Discrimination against members of Jewish faith and the Jewish faith, it has to be confronted at every turn, and we will confront it at every turn. There is no tolerance for hate. We pledge to be vigilant, determined, and united in defense of Jewish Americans.
The president and the first lady hosted a Hanukkah reception at the White House. They participated in the lighting of the menorah in honor of the Jewish holiday. The president's possible impeachment, the subject of an intense debate today on Capitol Hill. Members of the Democrat-controlled House Judiciary Committee arguing over the charges being leveled against President Trump. Karen Kafa reports from Washington.
The House Judiciary Committee moving towards sending articles of impeachment to the House floor.
I now call up H.Res. 755 impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Republicans doing what they can to hit back at the process.
Facts be damned. They don't care.
The committee debating amendments to the 2 articles of impeachment introduced by Democrats alleging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress by the president related to his actions toward Ukraine. Republicans say it doesn't meet the threshold.
If that's the best you got, you wasted a whole lot of time and taxpayer dollars, all because so many of you, Mr. Chairman, hate this president.
Democrats say it is their obligation to act.
The president committed the highest crime against the Constitution by abusing his office, cheating in an election, inviting foreign interference.
A committee vote, the final step before consideration by the full House. Democrats confident they have the votes to impeach, even though some swing district Democrats have not publicly committed to voting for the articles.
I would predict that the articles of impeachment will pass on the floor. But here is what I do know. Our leadership isn't going to encourage anybody to vote one way or another. They believe that this is rightfully a matter of conscience.
That House floor vote is expected next week. In Washington, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
With a heavy Democratic advantage, the Judiciary Committee is expected to approve both articles of impeachment after all of the amendments are offered. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell could act quickly to acquit the president if he's impeached by the House. That's what 2 Republican senators are telling reporters. They are predicting McConnell will jump straight to a vote on the impeachment articles. That's because he may not have the 51 votes necessary to dismiss the case, but he likely has the votes needed to acquit. Convicting a sitting president requires 67 votes. Anything short of that results in an acquittal. The surviving Boston Marathon bomber is trying to save his life. Dzhokhar Sarnev's lawyers are saying that he shouldn't be put to death because he didn't get a fair trial. He and his brother set off pressure cooker bombs, killing 4 people and injuring hundreds more in 2013. The brother died in a shootout with police. Dzhokhar was caught after 5 days on the run. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to death. Today, his attorneys argue that the jury pool was tainted because they were directly affected by the bombing. Prosecutors insist Sarnev received a fair trial. There's a lot more news headed your way, celebrating the first ever large-scale gathering of African Catholics in Nigeria. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, was there, and he's joining us. Plus, the Vatican is praising the selection of Greta Thunberg as Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But President Trump apparently isn't. And later, the spirit of the season, how this vet is single-handedly making Christmas joyful for children. Huge numbers of pilgrims arriving in Mexico City to express their devotion on their knees to Our Lady of Guadalupe. As many as 10 million people from all over the world are expected for today's feast day. The Mexico City Archdiocese is deploying 17,000 volunteers to help out with the crowds. And here in the United States, there is a major shrine to Our Lady of Guadalupe just outside of Chicago. Every year on this feast day, as many as 250,000 people make the pilgrimage to Des Plaines, Illinois to pay homage. And they began showing up yesterday. Maria and Gabriel Hernandez were here last month when she was having contractions before giving birth to their first child.
We told the Virgin Mary, please let me give birth, make sure the baby comes healthy. And that's what she did.
Here's 2-week-old Jacob, healthy and sleepy. His parents grateful.
We obviously have a little blessing, but we want more blessings, so that's why we came. We're thankful.
They are among hundreds of thousands of pilgrims who come here to this shrine every year on December 11th and 12th to celebrate Our Lady of Guadalupe. It draws more than 1 million people a year, but as many as 300,000 will make pilgrimages here on this day, remembering the night they believe she appeared before a young boy in Mexico in 1531. Many bring flowers and light candles in prayer.
Thank the Virgin Mary. Just thank for everything, that all the blessings, to continue to pray for, the next year's blessings. I'm just pretty much thankful.
The priest here believes the Virgin saved him and 100 others when their plane crashed after takeoff in Durango, Mexico last August.
I always tell people, I said, God said, bring him up. And the Blessed Mother said, wait, he works for me.
And this shrine in Des Plaines attracts over 1 million pilgrims every year. Both Democrats and Republicans in the House passed a bill that could provide a pathway to citizenship for undocumented farm workers. The measure could also bring big changes to the agricultural industry. It will require companies to verify if their workers are in the United States legally. The measure will now move to the Senate. Voters in Britain are hoping to end the Brexit stalemate. Brits are casting ballots in an election that pits Conservative Prime Minister Boris Johnson against the Labour Party's Jeremy Corbyn. Johnson says he'll take the country out of the European Union by the end of January. Corbyn is promising another referendum on Brexit. It's Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu versus former military chief of staff Benny Gantz again. In what will be an unprecedented third general election in less than a year after Netanyahu failed to put together a government for the second time. It means he will stay in power for 3 more months, even as he faces criminal corruption charges. A joyous celebration at the first ever large-scale gathering of African Catholics. A 4-day Congress in Nigeria focused on what must be done to perform the work of God across the continent. The national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, was there, and he joins us now. Welcome back, Christopher.
Great to be with you, Lydia. I've traded the African sun for New York snow, but it was a really wonderful experience.
We are so happy to have you here. Now, that video, it looked like it was a lot of fun. Tell me more about it.
So this video took place on the opening night, the official opening ceremony of the Congress. There was a group of sort of traditional dancers, and they were, filled with color and lots of drum beats. And at some point, the 2 of the bishops there, the Archbishop of Ghana and another bishop from Malawi, came down off the stage and joined the young dancers. The place went wild, just erupted in joy, which kind of set the tone for the whole experience.
Now, this meeting brought together about 80 delegates from all over Africa. Tell me more about this gathering. What are they hoping to accomplish?
Sure. So these were mostly African theologians, and they said, look, we've just celebrated 50 years of having an African Bishops' Congress or conference. They've had 2 global synods on the African Church in Rome, one taking place 25 years ago, the other 10 years ago. But the real purpose was, let's give real concrete activity to these words, So how do we become the spiritual lungs of the continent and the church? And so these theologians were really focusing on concrete ministries to really sort of upscale the evangelical efforts on the continent.
Amid all this joyous celebration, there was one criticism from a Kenyan nun. She had some strong words about sex abuse. Can you tell me more about that?
She did. This is a Kenyan nun who said, look, the African church is growing rapidly, but if we want to be global leaders, we've got to take the issue of clergy abuse seriously. And, her words are, we have to clean house. Basically making the case that if we want people to believe in our ministry and our mission, that we have to take it seriously ourselves.
Now, this is a statistic that I had no idea about. Now, according to a new Pew Research report, there are more Christians in Africa than on any other continent, and the faith is just growing there. But obviously, whenever there's a growing population, persecution can also be raging. We were talking before about 200 priests have been kidnapped over the last year.
Yes, 200 priests in this area that's deeply Catholic. This took place at the Enugu Bigard Memorial Seminary. 850 young men there training for the priesthood, the largest Catholic seminary in the world, but yet they face great risk, so they're there with a lot of courage.
What is the morale there? Because obviously there is some fear.
Yeah, there's deep fear, but these young men ranging 18 to late 20s, early 30s, they believe this is their calling, and they couldn't have any greater sense of joy and sense of purpose. And they say their families are behind them, and this is where they want to be.
Their faith is truly inspiring, and their work is amazing.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Christopher White, the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Great to be with you, Lydia.
Meantime, the Holy See is praising Time Magazine's recently named Person of the Year, Greta Thunberg, for her work in protecting the world. But as the Vatican hails a Swedish teen as a great witness to what the church teaches on the care of the environment, President Trump is upset about the decision. In a tweet congratulating Thunberg on the title, the president commented, "So ridiculous. Greta must work on her anger management problem, then go to a good old-fashioned movie with a friend. Chill, Greta, chill." Following Trump's tweet, Greta changed her Twitter bio to "A teenager working on her anger management problem, currently chilling and watching a good old-fashioned movie with a friend." Greta is the youngest person ever to be awarded Person of the Year. Still to come on Currents News, collectively, they've celebrated 500 Christmases. What's the secret to their longevity? And the spirit of the season will meet a man who spends all year making sure children less fortunate have a present under the tree. And please check out one of the latest features in the tablet. That's our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments, such as baptism, first communion, confirmation, and marriage. For more information and to submit your pictures, go to the tablet.org/Our Diocesan Family. We'll be right back. Collectively, they have celebrated 500 Christmases. 5 residents at a senior facility in Iowa have lived to 100. One of them shares his secret for making it to the century mark.
Trust the man upstairs and have a good wife, that's all.
One of the 5 centenarians is actually 101 years old, and 2 others will soon be celebrating their 101st birthdays. Finally, tonight, Christmas is fast approaching, and many parents are busy shopping for gifts for the kids, but some families are not as fortunate, and that's where Jim Annis steps in. He's an 80-year-old veteran and a toy maker who truly embodies the spirit of the season. Akila Davis has more on this story.
This is how Jim Annis spends most of his days. Carving, sculpting, even sanding blocks of wood into toys.
When the Salvation Army gives out the food and the clothing to the people in this area, I give out my toys.
Every Christmas for the past 50 years, the Army veteran has worked round the clock to create nearly 300 toys, gifting them to kids in need through the Salvation Army of Sanford. Other than the wooden scraps he gets for free from nearby homeowners, he pays for everything else out of pocket.
My shellac and my wheels and my paint, I spent about $1,000.
But it's not about the money.
I feel like you're sort of forgotten.
For him, this is personal. He remembers waking up many Christmas mornings with no gifts to open.
My dad, he worked, but he didn't make a whole lot of money. And with 5 kids, it's sort of hard to have a very big Christmas with 5 kids.
Jim makes it all. Small and large cars, John Deere tractors, fire trucks, dolls, even piggy banks. Over the years, he's made Christmas a lot brighter for children living in Lee County.
I love the people ask me, how much do I get paid for making these toys? And I say, my pay is when I see the smile on the kids' faces.
And hopes to keep this tradition going another 50 years.
I hope to do it until my toes turn up.
What an amazing guy. Now, that was Akila Davis reporting. Annis donates nearly 300 toys to the Salvation Army every single year. Well, that's Currents News. Again, I'm Lydia Serrani. Thank you so much for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.